not continue.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning, greetings, and a heart welcome to the Dubrovnik Forum 2025. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the second day of the conference. I am Mila Horvat and will be your host. It is now time for our first leaders panel titled Channeling the Change. Please extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, panel participants. Prime Minister of Croatia, Mr. Andrej Plenković. Vice President of the Council of Ministers and Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy, Mr. Antonio Tajani. Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Mr. Andriy Sybiha. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brazil and former ambassador to Croatia, Mr. Mauro Luiz Vieira. And Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and Togolese Abroad of Togo, Mr. Robert Dusi. Welcome, gentlemen, once again. At a time of global uncertainty, the question is not whether change will come, but how we can shape it together. Today we ask, can leadership and cooperation turn today's crisis into a more stable and just future? Can we channel the change so that 2025 becomes a year of hope? Let's start the conversation. Mr. Plenković, the topic of this year's conference is channeling the change. What are some of the most profound changes in domestic and international arena you have witnessed in your 3 terms in office?
Oh, we need many panels for 3 terms in office. But first of all, warm greetings to everybody and thanks to our host, Minister of Foreign and European Affairs, Mr. Grlić Radman. And thank you all for coming again to the 18th edition of the Dubrovnik Forum. It is really a pleasure, and I see that every year we are improving, and your participation confirms that the channeling of this improvement is in the good direction. I would say that in this decade in particular, we live in a not only polycrisis world, but also in the world which is so much currently more than multipolar. I think we have a huge division that basically stems from the premise that we have democracies and we have authoritarian regimes around the world, or those who are quasi-democracies. And authoritarian regimes and quasi-democracies, they plan in a little bit of a longer perspective than the ones who have to face the elections every 4 or 5 years, depending on the legislative cycles. From this different position stems also the methodology of how we see the international relations. the natural approach of democracies is the collaborative approach, meaning that we want cooperation, we want peaceful relations with other countries or international organizations, we want world order based on international law, on the rules, on the system that is predictable, safe, reliable, and gives an opportunity for everybody to grow and try to find some sort of balanced level of development. The other countries in the world who are not under the democratic challenges every 4 years, we have seen that they have more confrontational approach, where the international law doesn't matter a lot. And last 5 years, first of all, we started off in a pandemic that has completely altered the health situation across the world, but has had, I would say, unseen ramifications on our economies, on our social situation, on the way that we functioned in terms of transport, work, way of life. And this was immediately, I would say, supplemented by the effects of the brutal Russian aggression against Ukraine. And I thank Andriy for being with us today, extend once again Croatia's solidarity and support for Ukraine in facing brutal Russian aggression for 3.5 years and showing such heroism and resilience. I would say that these two elements have defined what is happening today wider globally, especially with the war in the Middle East, with the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, war between Israel and Houthis in Yemen, war between Israel and Iran with the United States participation. As I said, even yesterday, the sort of a little bit almost forgotten now, given the dynamics of international relations, the biggest air battle after the Second World War, which occurred between India and Pakistan literally 2 months ago, due to the situation in Kashmir and the terrorism. I think that such a context is asking from all of us, and I would say incredible amount of responsibility, which should try to, first of all, de-escalate and calm all of those conflicts, and then try to maybe channel this change into more stable world. And that's why I think it's excellent that at today's panel we can hear the perspective also not only from Europe, but also from South America. And I'm very happy that the Brazilian Foreign Minister, former ambassador to Croatia, is here with us, and also Togolese Foreign Minister that can provide us with a perspective that maybe we in Europe do not hear that much often in order to understand the world. So I would say that the challenges are constant. I would say challenges are constant, but the answer has to be collective and has to be sober. The NATO summit in The Hague, with its decisions for the allies to increase the expenditure for defense by 2035 to 3.5% of GDP, plus 1.5% for the investments related to defense, which can be used for the civilian use, is really unprecedented. It will change our budgetary planning. It will change also the production of military equipment. It will improve our own defense capabilities, but they need to be well coordinated, interoperable, and increase our joint capabilities, because with the example of Ukraine, I don't think there is anybody now in Europe who believes that we are secure under the umbrella of the Article 5 and the collective security, as we have thought for many decades. Even for Croatia, Minister of Defense knows on Monday we shall have the new law in front of the Parliament on defense, and we are, I wouldn't say re-establishing the classical military service, but enabling the new generation to acquire the basic skills which young Croats need in today's world. This is really an impact of the global change and its effect on our own policies. Thank you.
Mr. Sibiha, how does Ukraine currently assess the geopolitical landscape in Europe and globally, especially in the context of continued Russian aggression?
Having such a scale of challenges, we need to react accordingly to this scale of challenges. More determination, more certainty, more decisive steps Yesterday, another, or once again, sleepless night for all Ukrainian families. That's another attack, brutal attack on international law and our shared values. We need peace, we need security, we need to end this war this year. We need diplomatic mobilization. Something is wrong with international system. I mean, more than 11 years, Ukraine is in war with Russia. 4th year of full-scale Russian aggression. And still, Putin has capacities to continue this war. Our approach, or I could share once again, I am always emphasizing on this, the recipe how to stop this war is very simple. Engagement and leadership of the USA. We welcome efforts of the President Trump to end this war, to raise the price for Russia to continue further aggression against Ukraine. Here, sanctions, further isolation, and frozen assets. And third point, to strengthen Ukraine. To strengthen Ukraine, deterrence package for Ukraine. If we are talking about Ukraine, we are also talking and meaning our common security, transatlantic security, Ukrainian security, transatlantic security. They are indivisible. They are indivisible. So first of all, we need to stop this war, to achieve unconditional ceasefire. By the way, yesterday it was exactly 4 months since Ukraine unconditionally accepted ceasefire. So it's a momentum. It's a really, now we are in momentum to find a diplomatic solution for peace, long-lasting, just peace. Ukrainian people deserve to have peace. And of course, the only way understandable for Putin, strength, peace through strength. And we still have not engaged instruments. We do really hope that American side will impose sanctions. We need them. We need European 18 package to be synchronized with American strong package to force Russia at this stage for ceasefire, sea, air, land. And it will open the path for broader peace negotiations. And we are really thankful for Croatia for your unwavering support and contribution in our resilience and resistance. I would like, using this opportunity, to express gratitude for this invitation. For us, it is important to exchange views. We need this diplomatic mobilization right now. Now it is a momentum to speed up our peace efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Sibiha. Mr. Tajani, what is the perspective of growth in the enlarged Mediterranean with India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for hosting me today in this beautiful town. I think it's a good idea to open the light on the Mediterranean Sea. The future of this crucial region for us, for Italy, for Croatia, but also for everyone, because the Mediterranean is also to open the door to Indo-Pacific region. It's possible to do more. Unfortunately, as Prime Minister Plenković said, there is a difficult moment in the Middle East. This is not good for our growth. For this, it's important to work hard for achieving a ceasefire in Gaza and to achieve an agreement between USA, Israel, and Iran on nuclear. The solution should be, for example, no nuclear weapons, but also it's possible to move on in the research on civil nuclear. This is crucial for the stability of the Mediterranean Sea. The other point is North Africa. We need to look at Africa because it's our most important interlocutor for as Italians. There is the Plan Mattei. You want to cooperate with Africa, first of all, with the countries in front of us. The stability of this region is crucial for growth, also for stopping illegal immigration. We want more legal migrants, but less illegal migration, because this is a big business for human traffickers, and they are the same on drug traffickers and weapon traffickers, coming from through Africa, through Niger, through Libya. Libya is another point. For us, the stability of this country is crucial. Has been a big mistake to kill Gaddafi, because after Gaddafi the situation is absolutely not positive. But we need to work hard with the African countries for the stability of the continent. We will have 2.5 billion people in 2050. For this, we need to look at this new, strong continent. But what is possible to do for growth? First of all, peace and stability. Second, for us it's important to strengthen the IMEC corridor. This is a super opportunity, because the corridor starting from India, through Israel, through Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and then the Mediterranean Sea, is also is possible. Our idea is to conclude this corridor in Trieste. This is the French want to conclude also in Marseille. But it's possible to have two small corridors in the Mediterranean Sea. Why Trieste? Because Trieste is the port of the former Austrian Empire. This is the port for the Western Balkans, the port for Central Europe. This is crucial. I will organize a big event in Trieste for talking on this, because the IMEC corridor is a big opportunity for the new infrastructures. Railways, motorways, for a strong link is an opportunity, because before Trieste there are a lot of ports, also in Croatia, also in other Western Balkans countries. This is a big opportunity, and if we want to work more on trade, we need to achieve this goal, to move on in this direction. But in the same time, it's possible also to strengthen the cooperation in digital connectivity. For example, submarine cables are at ways of our time. Italy strongly support projects for like BlueMed and Blue Raman to wide capacity cable networks that will connect Europe with North Africa, the Middle East and India, because I think it's important to use also the Suez, the Red Sea, and then the Indo-Pacific region, because it's the only one sea. Also, Adriatic Sea is crucial also for strengthening the cooperation between Croatia and Italy and the Western Balkans. We will talk probably after on the Western Balkans, because we need also to work hard for having the Western Balkans countries full member of the European Union with Croatia and Moldova.
Thank you, Mr. Tajani. Mr. Joshi, speaking of Africa, what are the necessary levers available to Africa to take better advantage of a more balanced, inclusive, and just global reshaping?
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank the Prime Minister and all of your cabinet, specifically my colleague, you are one of the brilliant Minister of Foreign Affairs in the world. He is my big brother here. And I would like to tell you, what do you know about Africa? I'm very happy to have my friend Antonio here in my life. The relation between Africa and Europe is very strong relation, and we don't have a choice, because we, from Africa, we need you in Europe. In Europe, I think you need also us in Africa. It's clear. When we take the African continent, Africa is 30 million and a half something kilometers square. You can put in Africa the European continent, China, and the United States. Only in African continent. So Africa is, as you say, is more than probably in 2015 more than we will be more than 2.5 billion people. If you see the continent like Africa, you know, the future of our world is in Africa. Which kind of advantage we have? Our demography. Now we are more than 1.5 billion people in Africa. So if you want to do a business, we are in Africa. So sorry. I think you are around 400 or 500 people, 1,000 people in Europe. Only in Africa, we are more than 1 billion people. In terms of demography, in terms of business, I think the first market what you have is in Africa. It's an advantage for you as European. For us in Africa, we have the mechanism what we call CFTA, is African, I think, continental trade area between us in the single market what we have. The single market what we have, we are trying to implement that single market right now. But with this market, for us it's very important because 1.5 billion people, we have a single market, and we have a partner like you in Europe is you know, I think is very important. The second point also is without demography is the critical resources. I'm not a US citizen, but what I know right now, I know my friend, the foreign minister of Brazil, Mauro, we just talked about the US politics. You know, it's like in diplomacy, the word what we know now is to make a deal. Because it's a deal, we have to make a deal. Look at the African critical resources. In Africa right now, we have, you can take one of the raw resources what we have, like cobalt. We have more than 60 or 70% of cobalt in the world. In terms of gold, we have 40% of reserves in the gold. A lot of resources we have in Africa. So it's a second advantage what we have also in Africa. And I think in terms of geopolitical situation, now you have also to deal with us. You know, Mauro and I, we talk about BRICS. Is a new geopolitical maybe organization. We will maybe talk about it. But geopolitically, I think it's important to have Africa with you in Europe here. Is one of the advices what I would like to share with you. Mr. Prime Minister, if you want to deal with us in Africa, I'm here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vieira, what are the results of the Brazilian BRICS presidency this year? The recent BRICS summit in Rio was criticized for a supposed anti-West attitude. US President Trump even threatened the grouping with an additional 10% import tariff. So is this criticism a correct assessment of what the BRICS is all about? If not, why? Please.
No, thank you very much for the question. First of all, I'd like to thank my friend and colleague, Foreign Minister Radman, for the invitation to take part in this important forum, and together and being a part of this important debate here with the presence of first Prime Minister Plenković and 4 good friends and colleagues with whom I have worked for a long time since I took this position after being ambassador here in Croatia. And it's always wonderful to be back in Croatia, and especially in this beautiful city. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to share this panel with you and to be here today. Well, as to BRICS, I would like just to say that BRICS is a very important group, and it's not that new because everything started in 2008 after an article written by a very important economist who launched the first 5 members of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, who are developing countries and growing economies and an important grouping. And after that, over the years, this group increased the number of members. Now we have 11 full members and 10 dialogue partners. And there is a vision in some parts of the world that this grouping is against the West, which is totally false, because you have countries that, like China, which is the first trade partner with the United States. Brazil has a very strong relation with the United States and with Asia. China is now, for the last 10 or 15 years, the first trade partner of Brazil. And you have different countries, like South Africa or like India. India is a very, very important partner of Brazil, economically, in trade, in terms of trade, and also politically. So this is a platform of discussion, cooperation, and promotion of development and important initiatives. This year, this was the second, if I'm not mistaken, presidency of Brazil of this grouping. And this year, our goals and our main, let's say, main issues we discussed was first, cooperation in health and promoting the combat of socially developed diseases that affect the poor countries and poor populations, like malaria and so many others. And besides that, the governance of artificial intelligence. And also a very important issue, which is the financing of the fight, the action to fight climate change. So these were 3 important issues, 3 important items of our agenda of discussion and of decisions. We took important decisions on that. So this is not against the West or against anyone. This is a platform that is in favor of development of countries that come from the global south or developing countries. And besides that, we have many other initiatives. The BRICS countries, and it was during the first presidency of Brazil in BRICS, in the summit we had in the northeast of Brazil, in the city of Fortaleza, the capital city of Ceará state in Brazil. We created the new development bank, which is also known as the BRICS Bank. This is a very important bank, is an important agency of financing and development for BRICS members, but also to other developing countries who want to join the bank. And it's a first step towards the reform of global governance, because it's an important bank that has made more than $40 billion of loans to the member states, and with different rules from the World Bank or IMF. This is also a very important issue that we have been discussing in BRICS, and for Brazil is very important, the reform of global governance. This means the UN and the Security Council, which is totally paralyzed in front of all the huge conflicts and wars that we have going on in Europe and in the Middle East, and the conflicts that are taking place in Africa. Unfortunately, UN is paralyzed and the Security Council is completely blocked. There is no decision, nothing happens. Will we continue to see all these conflicts going on? Do we need a different organization or a more modern one? So, and it also, our desire to promote a reform of global governance also applies to the Bretton Woods institutions, to the World Bank, to the IMF. the quota system and the capital shares of developing countries is absurd. It's so reduced, so the decision power in these institutions is limited in the hands of very few countries. And living outside important continents, like my good friend Robert Dussey mentioned, Africa or Latin America, or other huge countries in the world, like India, which has almost 1.5 billion inhabitants. We believe that there must be some kind of change in all these institutions and mechanisms. And since I mentioned Africa, for Brazil, Africa is a very important continent. We are very close. We are not separate from Africa. We are not divided by the ocean. I think we are united to Africa through the Atlantic Ocean, and the presence of Africa is so close and so important and so dear to Brazil. We have more or less half of our population with African descent, especially from Togo, from Benin, from Ghana, and especially the Atlantic coast countries of Africa. It's an important, let's say, new area for relations, for trade, it's a very young continent, and you know the future is in youth. So we are very, very close. We have just as an example of our interest in this area, in foreign policy with Africa, we just had about a month ago a meeting in Brasilia of all ministers of agriculture from Africa to discuss cooperation with Brazil in the area of food security. So this is more or less how we see BRICS and how we are working with BRICS member and the contact with other groupings, because BRICS is also, if you see from G20, 8 members of G20 are also BRICS members. And so that's how we see it.
Perfect, thank you.
May I comment very briefly?
Yes, of
with your
course,
permission?
please.
We have our own experience with BRICS, and I would like to share with one fact. One of the previous summits, BRICS summits, was conducted in Russia, in Kazan. And ahead of this summit, we, as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, received official notes from some BRICS countries not to attack Kazan, while their leaders are there. What does it mean? Sometimes it is really risky to attend some events in some formats in Russia. That's a true recognition of our capacities, because the distance from Ukrainian border to Kazan more than 1,000 kilometers, and don't mess with Ukraine. I just want to share with such a...
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Plenković, the transatlantic relations have been strengthened by the recent NATO summit you have mentioned and the agreement on increased defense spending. At the same time, tensions persist in trade relations. How has Europe adapted to the America First policy?
Well, first of all, I think that the relations between Europe and the United States still are at the core of our priorities, and I think that is reflected with this large consensus and relatively quickly and relatively easily attained in the preparation of the NATO summit in Hague. Basically, the key elements that President Trump was advocating in his first mandate came to the surface during the period when he was not in the presidency, but when Russia committed the second, as Enrique said, aggression against Ukraine. Then all of a sudden this was a huge wake-up call, more than the abstract calls for increasing defense expenditure, when the real threat to Europe's freedom and all of our nations, not only Ukraine, appeared. I believe that if we were able, as Europeans and the Americans, to agree on such a substantive increase regarding our ambitions for 2035 in defense, we should be in the position to find a sensible solution to avoid tariffs war. This new policy of President Trump and the American administration, which is basically seeking a more balanced trade with partners, because I was recently in the United States and we had excellent conversation with the US Trade Representative, Mr. Greer, and I tried to really grasp what are the essential elements, and the essential elements come usually from numbers, and the numbers said that the deficit in trade relations between the US and many other partners in the world was too large. However, that does not mean that the unilateral imposition of tariffs should disrupt the global trade, and let alone trade with the European Union countries, which are one of the major partners. A couple of years ago, I was still in the European Parliament, as a number of my colleagues who are here. The TTIP was the main topic in the transatlantic relations. Unfortunately, there was no completion of such I would say, voluminous and ambitious task. Now we are in a different mode, different models. We discussed extensively at the last European Council how to reach some sort of a form of a consensus that would basically not put us in a position that one day we agree to spend 5% related to defense, and next day we have imposition of tariffs that are hurting our economic operators. Croatia is one of those countries that is supporting the efforts of Ursula von der Leyen's Commission, Šefčovič and his team, together with the American partners, to reach an agreement. I understand we have a new deadline, which is now basically prolonged until the 1st of August. The previous deadline expired on the 9th of July, and basically it's 3 weeks left for some sort of an agreement. We are in constant touch with the President of the Commission and her team. Minister of Economy chairs a special grouping in Croatia that deals with companies that export to the United States. I was actually personally surprised that there are companies in Croatia that actually export 100% of everything they produce to the United States market. I think 10% current imposition is sort of livable. They can carry it, but if it goes up to 20 or even more, most of those exporters to the American market will become simply uncompetitive, which means that they will lose their export markets and they have to reorient. So therefore, I think it's everybody's interest to find a solution, at least a model solution for the start, which can then later on be elaborated in the future. So our position is we should, first of all, stick together, find a sensible solution that will facilitate and, I would say, smoothen the relations between the US and Europe, and Croatia included in that, I would say, exclusive competence of the Union, which is the trade policy.
Thank you. Mr. Tajani, what about the priorities of the European agenda? And what do you think about the enlargement to Balkans as a strategic investment for Europe?
Thank you for this question. For Italy and for me, the Western Balkans is a priority. But I prefer to use the word reunification and not enlargement, because the Western Balkans are Europe. The Western Balkan people are Europeans. Unfortunately, the communism in the USSR stopped this reunification for many years. But we want to now to work hard for achieving the goal for having as full members of the European Union all the Western Balkans countries. Not easy, but I prefer to push hard in this direction and to have these countries members of the European Union before 2030. Italy is totally engaged for achieving these results. Why? Because the Western Balkans are an opportunity for growth, for trade, for investments, and it should be a big mistake to lose this opportunity. We are organizing, I want to thank Gordon for his engagement. There is a group of friends of Western Balkans for paving the way for a full membership of these countries. The dialogue is open with all the Western Balkan countries. I visited all the Western Balkan countries. I organized as Italy a lot of business forum for pushing also our companies for joint ventures Italians and Western Balkans countries for growth. We are ready also for investments in Italy of Western Balkans countries, companies. We want to invest more in this country. We are strongly involved also for achieving peace through our soldiers. They are soldiers of peace between Serbia and Kosovo, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Also there is Guardia di Finanza in Montenegro and Albania for export our know-how against corruption, because we are fighting every day against corruption. If we want to achieve the acquis communautaire, we need to work hard all together. For this is an opportunity, as I said, also IMEC will be an important opportunity for new infrastructures, railways, motorways, also for tourism. This is an important opportunity for all the Western Balkan countries to be part of the European market. This is crucial for all of us. For this is a priority. It's impossible to lose. Also, I know Russia wants to be more present, but it's our job to do more. Many mistakes in the past, because in Europe, also in Brussels, not a strong involvement on this priority. But for Italy now, we need to do more to work also for the solution of the problems, because there are problems. We are ready for doing what we need to do. We want to be problem solver in working with Croatia, with the Western Balkan countries, part of the European Union. And Croatia will play an important part with Italy, with Austria also. We want to organize also trips to the different countries, not only as Italy, but also with Austria, with Croatia. It's possible for this to send a strong message to these countries, because we want to strengthen this cooperation. We want the Western Balkans part of Europe, because they are Europe. This is crucial, because I think, why I said mistakes, because for many times the Western Balkans not a priority for us. Now we need to move on to achieve the goal in short term.
Thank you. Mr. Dussi, speaking of today's global context, does the principle of equal partnership remain a realistic ambition?
Thank you. I think from Africa, you know, Africa is a very big continent, you know. We have 54 countries in Africa, so I can let you know one of our priority, I can say, in terms of global economy is we need to transform our local economy ourselves. Because most of the African countries, we have, we don't produce ourselves. For example, in terms of agriculture, we have a lot of products in Africa, but we don't transform our agricultural products. So in terms of economy is one of the priority what we have. And we need also, you know, to work with you, because we need more expertise, more technology, you know, to help us in Africa. Another point what we have in terms of geopolitical issues is politically we need also to have a good governance. And when you see, for example, it's the same thing, you know, every year, every September in United Nations, we say Africa we need 2 seats in the Security Council, because for us it's not normal when they created the United Nations. It was before the African independence countries. Now we have 54 countries. We can understand why in the Security Council we don't have the representative of African countries as permanent member of Security Council. is one of the big challenges what we have. And also, you know, we have in the continent, unfortunately, a lot of issues about in terms of, you have a conflict, you know, in the east part of the African continent, in the Central African part in our continent. So we need to work for peace and stability in our continent. So my own conviction is we need to trust ourselves. It's very important, because usually when we talk, it's like we are waiting for something from our friends, from our partners, but we cannot transform the real life of our population without our own will to do for our own countries or our own continent. So the future of African continent is the hand of the African population and also in the hand of African leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of partnership, Mr. Sibiha, and peace, what are Ukraine's expectations from international partners when it comes to supporting meaningful and lasting peace efforts?
Thanks a lot for your question. Reacting to the remarks of my colleague from Togo. Last year, despite the war, Ukrainian side opened 9 embassies in Africa. We are ready to contribute in African food security. We have these capacities. We can play this role, and we could help African countries to become more self-sufficient. So we are at your disposal. We are interested to intensify ties with African countries, with African Union. Now, returning back to your question. As I mentioned at the beginning, now we are in a momentum. We need this full diplomatic mobilization to pressure Russia to accept ceasefire as a fundamental step for further broader negotiations. We are ready. After this, we are ready to negotiate in any geography, in any format. But we need this fundamental step, ceasefire, right now. And we have these instruments. Especially now, we need decisive steps from American side. Sanctions, oil price cap, secondary sanctions. Also to sanction entities from these countries which are earning bloody money on Russian crude oil. We know these countries, and Ukraine, we will initiate special procedures how to deprive of capacities Russia to finance war machine. Their budget, mostly, incomes to their budget, are mostly from the trade of crude oil. So if replying very briefly on your question, sanctions. And in parallel, to strengthen Ukraine, to help us to become more self-sufficient. Now we can produce, we scaled up our defense industries, and now we can produce approximately 40% of our needs for our army. But still, we have huge potential, and it will be also contribution. It is an investment in future our common security. Mm-hmm. We are a contributor of security now, Ukraine, having daily combat experience, having such an advanced defense industries. So we are interested in ending this war and to contribute in restoration world order based on international law, on the respect of territorial integrity and sovereignty. And each country, each geography needs such a principled stance and such a principled approach.
Thank you. Mr. Plenković, the EU enlargement policy has been boosted by the Russian aggression against Ukraine. How do you see its prospects during the current term of Commission?
I would say that the one of the effects of Russian aggression against Ukraine was the fact that the enlargement process was enlarged. That is to say that the countries who were previously put in the context of the neighborhood and partnership relationship with the EU, and here I refer especially to Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, were merged with the enlargement countries, and these are predominantly the Croatian neighbors in Southeast Europe. This has had a positive effect. First of all, Croatia is the country that joined the European Union as the newest member, and that new is now more than 12 years ago, which means that 2 mandates of the Commission of the European Parliament have passed without any new enlargements. And when you read the mission letter of President von der Leyen to Commissioner Kos, Slovenian commissioner responsible for enlargement, you can sense that there is ambition to try to do more this time, which means the ideal scenario would be at least that there is 1 new member by the end of 2029. Whether that will occur or not, it's very difficult to say. We had very unfortunate projections in everybody's case, from the countries who were promised to be in the European Union in 2000 and then joined 4 years later. From our own predictions, everything is like a moving process. But what we can see is more commitment. I initiated the debate at the level of the European Council now 10 days ago about the Southeast Europe and the Western Balkans, because I felt the situation requires focus of the European leaders, and I think it was a good warning debate in order to have a substantive debate and conclusions for the next couple of years at our summits in December, when the Western Balkans EU summit will be held. I think Ukraine is a very big country with strong administration and a huge commitment and help of many, let's say, foreign experts or partnership with other governments, is making incredible steps forward, both under the current regime of the institutional and contractual relationship with the EU, and the preparations to open the first cluster as far as Ukraine is concerned have been done. We were almost there. We just missed 1 country to say we have a go-ahead to kick off. I believe that these issues will be addressed in the next months, and that Ukraine will also start the accession negotiations. For the countries in our neighborhood, Montenegro is clearly the front runner, and after them Serbia, Albania. We hope that issues that remain as obstacle to start negotiations with North Macedonia will be also addressed. For Croatia especially, we attach great importance to Bosnia and Herzegovina. I said it yesterday, even at the 30th anniversary of the genocide in Srebrenica and the commemoration in Potocari, that we shall be always strongly advocating Bosnia and Herzegovina's path to the EU membership and supporting it in a way that all 3 constituent peoples are equal and legitimately represented in all institutions, and this will be the focus of our attention when it comes to enlargement. We also hope that Kosovo will move forward. There is a specific situation of 5 EU member states non-recognizing Kosovo still, but the efforts are being made, and I think once, whenever that happens, Madam Minister, that the government and the President of the Parliament is elected, I know you have another 9 or 10 months to address this issue, that you will be back on track when it comes to European reform. So for us, the more the countries are well prepared, the more we respect the individual merits-based enlargement process, the better it will be. I think in the context of the forthcoming negotiations on the multi-annual financial framework for 28-34, which will basically kick off as of Wednesday once the Commission publishes its legislative package, we will have to somehow fit in the ramifications of absorption capacity of the new members and the preparedness of the new members for membership. So I feel today the mood is much better. Zagreb was the summit, Zagreb summit, the first one with the Western Balkans, took place in 2000. So 25 years ago, I think at the time, most of us thought everything was going to be faster. When we look at the results, from those countries, only Croatia managed, but we are keen to help our neighbors to repeat what we have done, and which was a very cumbersome and difficult process, and there are many actors of that process in this room. And the more time passes, the more I realize that in Croatia, very few people still remember how complicated it was. Many of them are taking it for granted. It's never for granted, and it's always more complex than it is. But enlargement policy today at a higher level of the priority agenda, I would say, than in the last 10 years for sure.
Thank you. There are still many topics we haven't discussed, as time is unfortunately limited. But climate change, global warming are certainly dominant issues today. So my final question goes to Mr. Vieira. What can we expect of the upcoming COP30 in November in Brazil, and what are Presidency's main goals?
Well, thank you very much. I thank you for the question. It's very important for us because it's a big challenge to host such a huge conference like COP30. President Lula is still as president-elect in 2022. By the end of the year, he launched this proposition to host COP30 in Brazil. It was Latin American turn of presidency of COP, and he launched it during COP28 in COP27 in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh. It's very, very important, and this is climate change, and the environment is a main point in domestic and foreign policy, and President Lula wants to make of this COP the COP of implementation. We have been discussing for many years, for more than 10 years, different mechanisms and instruments and mechanisms of financing, but he believes now it's time to start implementing. And we live all in the same planet. We cannot destroy our planet because it will affect rich and poor, living in the East and the West. Everybody will suffer. We are seeing so many climate disasters all over the world, in Europe, in the United States and South America, all over. So it's time to start taking action. And one of the things he wants is to we'll have, the COP has two segments. There is a summit, a leader summit, that will take place in the first days of 6th or 7th of November, more or less, and then you have the diplomatic negotiations for 2 weeks. And he wants to raise the questions with the leaders, the heads of states that will be present, to take stock of the position of the different countries, to see where we are now and what are the necessary steps to start financing. Last COP took place in Azerbaijan, and there was an update of the needs of financing to mitigate and to take care, to mitigate the climate change and to start fighting the consequences. And it was a revision of the previous engagement of 10 years ago that $100 billion needed to finance climate change. It was updated to $300 billion a year. But what is needed is much more than that. It's $1.3 trillion a year. Other than that, the warming, the climate change and the temperature warming of the planet will go beyond 1.5 degrees centigrades, and we will lose control of it. And we have catastrophes all over the world, in all countries. Nobody will be safe. So we have to try to find different initiatives. We have, but Brazil is responsible for 60% of the Amazon forest, rainforest. The rest is divided with the 7 other countries in the north of South America, from Bolivia up to a smaller part, which is Europe, because it's the French Guiana. They are also members So an European country is also a member of the Organization of the Treaty of Amazonic Cooperation, and we have to be engaged. We want, and together with Congo and Indonesia, we are developing a number of mechanisms. One of them is called TFFF, which is Tropical Forests Forever Fund, to try to keep the tropical forests in the world safe, to stop deforestation, and to start to reclaim land that was destroyed, that was deforested in those three regions of the world. We have a very strict legislation for preservation, and we have a goal to eliminate deforestation till 2030. So this is what we expect of it. It's a call to action and a kind of initiative to make people think of the need of financing for preservation of our planet.
Thank you very much. We have reached the very end of our panel. Gentlemen, thank you for taking part. I wish all of you success in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to our distinguished guests. Thank you for your attention as well. I would like to invite you to join us at the rest of the panels that are continue after a brief break. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.